How's it going? My name is Ryan McNeal. This is my homework for submission for ENME 489Y. So the goal of this homework was to take the code that we wrote in class and apply it to a video. Before it was just using an image, a still image of a car on the road, and it was to take that and adjust it so it was actively updating as a car is driving. Um, so at the end of class, basically we had those hue lines plotted on a still image. Hue lines uh, are lines that are taken from a still masked image and takes it into kind of XY space and turns it into the hue space. Um, and I can actually show that here, adjusting as you move. So I was able to get the hue lines graphing on this moving video frame by frame. So the goal is to take these lines and then find the true lane lines. So the way I did this is I added all of these lines per frame to an array. And then I found the mean of those lines, split them left and right for the left lane and the right lane. And then I graphed the mean. I used the mean instead of the median because I just found it created a more smooth transition as you're moving back and forth and not as jittery. And one issue that I found, especially with video one, is you can see that the hue lines on the left are flickering. This is because the mask, as it's moving, only has those the lanes on the left coming in and out once in a while. So basically, what I did with that is, you can see it up here, is that those arrays, every frame you add new values to them. After 30 frames, you start removing the values at the front using this pop, and you continue to add on. But basically what that does is that after those 30 frames, you start, or 30 indices, not frames, excuse me, it isn't updating anymore from previous data. So let me go back and I can take out these hue lines. Show you the true. Cool. So yeah, you can see at the beginning, because it just doesn't have that much data to average, and as the frames coming in, it kind of gets really sporadic, but then it locks in. Adjusting those values for the frames was just too many. It gets really stiff, and it doesn't, because it has to take the mean of a lot of data. As you move lanes, it doesn't really do a good job. And 10 or something, it's too jittery, and you want a little bit of consistency as it's going through. And without that, it skips back and forth. I was getting errors because it was trying to divide by 0 at times. So moving on to video 2, I definitely had some issues with this, with the colors. Because it's brighter, you have to adjust the hue and saturation values for the mask up here. And that was just some trial and error. And a big thing, as you see when it first starts, it flashes like all through there was white. That's just the camera adjusting. And then as it's going, it does a really good job of getting locked in and staying with that. This one doesn't work as well because of the environment that the driver is driving. So you see it changes, it does a really good job, but on the right here, or over the whole frame, it crosses a bridge. And I can go back. So what the bridge does, it changes the color of the road to a much lighter material, which washes out those values. It doesn't adjust that the thresholds, and everything becomes in the range. And they bounce back and forth because they don't have anywhere to stick to. You can see it coming right here. So it's completely white. And if this, to make the algorithm better, basically I would have an auto-adjusting hue or a threshold setting. This would be determined by brightness, by the color of the road, but having an actively updating like background color would allow you to have a dynamic threshold that would allow you to not have this washing out that you see. Because right here, the blue and the red lines aren't put anywhere because everything's white. What are you gonna, like, you can't find a line in that because it's just a big white splotch. The moment it goes back, it starts averaging over those arrays again, and then I didn't want that, but yeah. So then it gets back to it. Another issue you can see as it's coming through that I didn't see in the other one is right here. So right now it's okay, but as it goes through, all of those lines are then transformed into hue lines, which screw up the average. You can see this. You can see that you've got your line on the left, but you also have a lot coming in on the right. Um, to make the algorithm a little bit better for applications on the road, you probably want to have there's a few things you can do. You can have it so it always recognizes hue lines that are to the right, the most right on that right side. You could have data that matches this type of road um, lining, I guess, to recognize that you're going to ignore that. But the more a car is driving, it could pick up that sort of data. But you can see, oh, let me do that again. It has trouble, and especially like this, where you have two parallel lines, it's averaging right in between them, and it's bouncing back and forth. And the moment it's gone, it snaps right back to it. So that was just an example of it not working as well, just because you have that consistent, um, kind of outlier lines and stuff on the road. But overall, um, it does a really good job when it's just sticking in a straight line, which I found. Um, excuse me, I'm just making sure I'm saying all the right stuff. Um, yeah, the main things that changed was just adding in that averaging over multiple frames, especially when things are flickering, or if you were driving and you were to be in a construction area and you didn't have any lanes at all, you could still kind of judge where you were going at the same time. In terms of the improvements as you go on, I think, like I said, having a hardware software, a physical sensor for light would be a really good job. We study a lot of lighting things and for scenery with photographs and stuff. So I think you could be able to sense what the light and atmosphere of an area is, and then create a pretty good value for the background, so that you know where the lines are, and have that dynamically updating threshold would be really helpful. Then also, if the lanes are yellow or if it's white or stop signs and stuff, it just depends on the environment. So constantly checking and adjusting, so that when if you were to do this mask, um, that it's not doesn't only work on really black tarmac with white lines. Um, yeah, so I think that's it. Just again, video one works pretty well. Definitely more happy with this one. And then video two, which just a little bit more sporadic, but does a really good job of snapping back. So I think that's it. Thank you so much.